All right, so this is probably one of the most boring aspects of real estate, going through the numbers, because it's just so much stuff, man. Look at all this stuff. It just looks like, what does this mean? How does it impact me if I just want to buy? So my goal is to try to make this stuff, all this stuff seem interesting. Just because I understand that who wants to go through this? It's just a lot of stuff. So if when I finish this, if it is helpful, just please helpful in the comment section. That just lets me know and the algorithm know that this is helpful. If it's not helpful, don't put unhelpful. Just ignore it. Right off the bat, first let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the active listings. If you see right here, active listings in Fairfax County have gone up almost 40% when you compare it to last year. We went from, again, 1,209 homes available to about almost 1,700 homes. This is a 40% increase. What does this mean, though, Manuel? We get it. It's highlighted, but what does it mean? What it means is that for the first time in really a while, like since last year, buyers now actually have choices. There's more options. They just have more choices. But the catch is that is not because people are actually selling. It's because if you look over here, look at this. New listings have only gone up about 3%. So active listings more, but new listings, there's only about 3%. This means that the inventory that we see between these two numbers is actually pointing to homes that are just sitting longer. So that's what it means. It means that homes are coming on the market, they're just taking longer to sell, that they're sitting on the market. So that's how they matter. Speaking of sitting longer, the numbers that really should grab your attention, I would say, is over here is when you look at the average days on market. Let me do that differently. When you look at the average days on market, let me do this different. Geez, the average days on market, you get it, went from 15 to 19. Now this doesn't sound like much of a difference. Doesn't sound like much of an increase, but remember back in the day, a couple years ago, when homes would probably sell, within hours of going on the market. That's no longer the case. So for sellers, that means that if you're expecting to list on Friday and then sell on Sunday with 20 offers, that's not the market we're in anymore. So you have to price it strategically because buyers are taking their time. And for buyers, that means for you, you have a little bit more time to think, a little bit more time to negotiate back and forth. This is what you want, right? This is what you want. These are numbers you want to see if you want to negotiate and try to get a better deal. So overall, it just means that, the buying portion of the real estate market, you no longer have to panic. Now, let's talk about pricing, because this is what I would say is very interesting. Look at this. The average, where are we at? Yeah. So the average home price, is still 880. Okay. Yeah. So now let's talk about pricing, because I really think that this is what's most interesting. So let me highlight this for you in a different color because we got purple going. Let's just do blue. So the average sold price, if we see average sold price is around $880,000. It's not a big difference. It's not a big difference at all. It's only about just under 4% compared to last year. But here's what I would say is actually the hidden number. Homes that are selling for nearly 98.7% of their original asking price. Where is this average sales price? Okay. So now let's talk about price. I think this is probably the most interesting. Look at this. The average sold price, look at this, year over year compared to last year has only changed about 4%. Not a big difference. But what's really interesting, I would say, is that right here, the ratio of average sales price to average sold price. So what this is saying is that homes are selling basically 98.9, or sorry, So now, so now let's just talk about pricing because pricing is key. We want to know how are the prices overall. The average sold price is about $880,000, which is a little bit more, but it's not much. It's only about 4% compared to a year ago. But for me, what I would say the biggest, the hidden number really is the average sold price to the original asking, original. Homes are selling home this year. Homes are selling for 98% of. Okay. So now let's talk about average sold price. Or so now let's talk about pricing. Okay, I want to make it quick. The average. So now let's talk about pricing. For me, pricing is key because this is where I would say is the most interesting information. The average sold price, if you look at it, it's not much. It's not much compared to last year. We haven't really seen a big difference. It's only about a 4% change. That's not a big number. But what I would say is the story really here it is. The average sold price to the original listing price is 98.7 versus 107%. Let me explain what this is. So homes are selling for 98% of their original asking price, which is down from what it was last year. What does this mean, Mono? Who cares? It means that sellers are now, compared to last year, sellers are now having to negotiate. The days of over list price, homes selling for a lot more than list price, which we saw a year ago, even 2023, 2022, and so forth. That market is gone. But sellers are now having to adjust their price. Sellers are having to price their homes realistically, and buyers are now able to negotiate for the first time, I would say, in a few years. So this, for me, is probably one of the most interesting stats, just if you look at its chart overall. Um, um, So with that in mind, there's been a lot of talk about the market is crashing. Is it crashing? Well, look at this: the total sold dollar volume. Look at it where it was a year ago, or this year really, versus a year ago. There's only been a 1% difference in change. People keep talking about crashing. I would think the market is really beginning to cool off. Sellers are they're having to compete with other inventory, and buyers now have the leverage more than they've ever had in years. So there's not a crash. I would just say the market's just beginning to cool down overall. But now let's just take a look at who's actually spending money. Who are the people that are buying? And we're going to look at the financing right here. The financing. Let's keep it in green. First of all, 65%, which is this number right here, 65% or 743. Let me redo this. 65% of buy or financing is being done by conventional. Okay, so now let's just take a look at who's actually buying, who's actually spending the money. When you look at the financing, there's a, so now let's take a look at who's actually spending the money. Who's spending the money? Conventional financing is seeing the most traction. This is about 65% of all financing is conventional, which this is normal. But what's really interesting is this number right here. Cash. Cash is about 17%, which is actually down if you look at where numbers were a year ago. This just means that, simply put, it means that regular buyers, like you and me, regular buyers, not investors with deep pockets, are back in the market. So if you are putting down 3% or 5% or 20%, this is your market. You are able to compete where you're not going to see as many investors as you did a year ago. So this is an advantage. This is an advantage for those who want to buy and don't want to compete. This is a better market to do it in than we've seen in the last couple of years. Here's what spins the speed the data. It's 40% of homes still sit within 10 days. So as we make our way to the days on So as we make our way to the days on the market, what does this mean? This means how quickly homes are selling. Look at it here. Most homes are selling within that 1 to 10 day time frame. This is almost, I would say, 40, maybe 50% of all transactions, or 50% of homes that are selling, they're selling within the first 10 days. This just means that it's good news. If it's priced right, it will sell. And I would say, again, 15% of homes are going to be sitting on the market for maybe a little bit longer. So if you are planning on selling, you need to price your home, because a vast majority of them will sell within the first 10 days. If your home is sitting closer to 30 days, you may want to consider price if it's not the overall condition. So so the question is, why does this matter? I think for Fairfax County, just having an idea of where our market is, it just helps, because there. Okay. Now let's just get down to the bottom. This will be brief. This will be pretty quick, because I want to just wrap this up. If you look at all the different price points, right? If you see 500,000, you see 600,000, you see 800K to a million. Look at the activity. There was a lot in the, again, you see this is the 10. This is active listings 10, 175 attached, detached. Where we see the most, look at this, it's between is around is the $1 million ones. Look at this. $1 million price point is okay. Let me do that again. The $1 million price point, I would say, is getting. Let me, if I can do this right. Please, 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 please. Okay. Look at this. So as we get down to some of the details, the active inventory is probably what I want to focus on. So as we get down and look at some of the details, looking at the active inventory, as you see below, there are different. See the 500K, look, $500,000 to 200,000. We see there's some activity, right? 89, 89 attached and detached, and so forth and so on. 600K. Look at it, 600K, 800K. We see 175 and 141. These are going to be, attached are going to be the townhouses, and the detached are single family homes. Look at this right here. The $1 million price point, $1 million to almost 2.5, has the biggest amount. Look. Attached 212. I'm sorry, detached 212, attached 50. When you go to 2.5 million to almost 5 million plus, another large amount. So what this is telling me is that the price points for the area, the average price point, though it is around the average price point, look, we saw it up here, 880. Overall, the market is beginning to move in a higher price point, meaning that $1 million, $800,000 to, to $1 million, $1 million to 2.5. This is kind of becoming the norm for the area. This is becoming the norm. That means if you want a single family home, you're probably going to be in this price point if you're looking to buy in Fairfax County. If you want a townhouse and you want something nice, bigger, you might be in this area, but even then, they're still competitive. There's still some options. Okay. So the final section we're going to look at is just the active inventory, which I just want to look at a couple of things. This active inventory is just showing how many detached single family homes and how many attached homes are active. And if you look at this price point here, 500 to 600,000, you're going to see there are some, not a lot though. There's none in July. Almost 10 detached homes that are active and 89 townhomes. And then we look at this 600K to 800K, 175. 175 single family homes, 141 townhomes attached. But the biggest change I would say is when you look at 800,000 to 900,000, and then you see a million to 2.5. This is where you're seeing most active inventories. Look at it. Most active inventories for single family homes are in this price point. Townhomes are going to be obviously still on the lower side. And you can see the parallel between the market. If you want a single family home that probably has, 3 or 4 or 5 bedrooms, you're going to be spending between 800 to 2.5 million. This is becoming the normal price point. If you want a townhouse, you're probably going to be between $500 and $800,000, just depending on where you buy in Fairfax County. So even though our average price point is 880, depending on what you're looking for, you're going to find more inventory in certain price points. If you want a townhouse or single family homes is going to be, between this 800 and 2.5 million. Obviously, there's more if you want to get above, 5 million, you can. But this is just pointing out where the prices for the areas are trending. So hopefully this helps. I just wanted to do this in a way that's helpful for you all. If you did find it helpful, please write helpful in the comments. I don't know if I hit the 3-minute mark. I probably did it, but I'm sorry. But hopefully, if this was helpful, let me know, and I can keep doing this. And I will see you hopefully on the next one. All right, take care.